Hello everybody, my name is Walter and this is episode 61 of my Redstone Commands Series. In this episode I want to cover the difference between using local variables and global variables, which is not overly complicated but can have a deep impact on how you build and make use of your data packs. But what is the actual difference here? Well, global variables apply to the entire data pack as a whole, and local variables apply usually to some entity and their surroundings maybe within the world. So with global variables, you control the entire data pack at once. And with local variables, you can have multiple instances of the data pack that are somewhat controlled independent of each other. A good example for something global would be, for example, the daytime or the weather or the game rules. And local would be something like the difficulty level, which can be the same, but also different for different players. Now, another example for a local variable you can see in my dissector data pack I released a good while ago, where I have basically the entire thing centered around an armor stand that also stores the measurement values. So if you have two of those dissectors in your world, they can store different measurements. And depending on which one is closer at a given moment, you interact with one or the other. So that is what I mean with having a potentially deep effect on how your data pack is used and built. Now, to round this up, let me show you a quick example. So I have a couple of armor stands here, and I also have two functions prepared. So the first function sets up a local variable. This is called setHeight, and it's basically the rounded player height at the moment I triggered the function. And for the local one, I'm giving that score to the nearest armor stand. And obviously, if I'm at a different height, the value is also different. But I could also give it just the same value again. It doesn't really matter much. So now those three here have local variables or local values. The next example here is setting up a global variable. Same idea, but instead of giving the score to a armor stand, I'm instead giving it to a pseudo player, which I called global. I could also use something like MBT data in storage and similar. Now, let's have a quick look at the functions or the commands in those command blocks here. So on the local side, I'm first checking whether the score is actually valid. So it's high enough and it exists. And then I'm storing in the armor stand, in the Y position, which is this +1 here, the value of that score for that armor stand again. And I'm doing this for all of these here, and you can see they end up at the Y level that is represented by the score. On the other side, I do the same, but instead of using the value for the nearest armor stand, I'm using the global score. And you can see they are now all also at the same level. And if I were to change that level, they are all adjusted as 1. If I were to do the same with this armor stand over here, for example, apparently this one here was closer at that moment, but you can see the effect. It changed the value of that armor stand here. So here we have 3 independent instances of this data pack in a sense. And those 5 here are just the same instance acting on 5 different individuals. And that is what I mean with using local variables or global variables having a big effect on your data packs. And with that, we've reached the end of this episode about local versus global variables. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I wish you a nice day and well, see you.